Hello again. So welcome to part 2, and in this sort of primer I'm going to be walking you through how to create these 3 different styles of place settings. And you might immediately say, Danielle, that's 4, but it's really kind of 3 different techniques. So we have the offset design, we have the cutout design, and then we have sort of the free floating design here. So if you watched the previous videos on typefaces and fonts, you'll notice that my cutout design has open counters so that we won't have these little pieces drop out and be lost. And this one is connected, has some flourishes on it, and is sort of designed to exist as one piece. So let's actually take a look at what I'm actually kind of emulating here. Going to Google, and you'll see that these laser cut place settings, I didn't invent these, not that you thought I did, but they're all over the place, and there's so many different designs. And you can see the main idea is that they're all connected. You need them to kind of exist as one piece because nobody's going to have like little chunks just floating around on their plate. So you can see some of the design things we talked about in the previous videos. For example, this one, they've connected the W and the I as well as the dots of the I. Now, I personally am not a huge fan of this like chunk that sort of connects them. I would have rather seen something up here, like looping this to sort of connect it back over here, or maybe something with a curve. That's not my favorite method, but you can see it does work. In this one, you can see they at least kind of attempted a curve here to get the connection. I think that works really, really well. And then there's just a ton more different designs, different typefaces, so using decorative elements to connect them, etc. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of where we're heading. Let's go back to Illustrator and let's actually show how we would achieve that. So this is Hello Hannah. This typeface is the Samantha typeface that I showed in the last video, and this is Tingler script. So the first and the easiest one to create is this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take all these letter forms, I'm going to copy, scoot them over, just to keep them live. And so for this one, all I did was I grabbed Tingler script, I typed it, I moved it about as big as I want, and I just put it over this sort of leaf drawing right here. I'm going to make sure to sort of scoot it into the center. I want to make sure that none of the areas surrounding it are too skinny because I don't want like a chunk of this to break off. So once I have that where I want to go, it's a nice short name, I'm going to go to Type, Create Outlines. You can see this is a common problem you see with like first-time laser cutters. When you set it to outlines, the overlap still exists. So if you don't weld these together, the laser's going to cut here and it's going to cut here, and this little chunk is going to be missing from your letters. So I'm going to grab my word, I'm going to go to my Pathfinder panel, and I'm going to hit Unite. Once again, if you don't see your Pathfinder panel, go to Window and just click that and it will pop up. Minimize that, zoom back out, and then I'm going to grab both. So I have this one on top, this one behind. I'm going to go back to my Pathfinder, and I'm going to hit minus front, and bam, there is our first place setting. So really simple. I can cut this however I want. I'll probably cut it, this would be beautiful out of like a mirrored orange acrylic or something really fun for Thanksgiving, and that's probably what I will do. Now for this one, same concept, so I'm going to move this out of the way, the completed version. This is just a clip art that I found. Now, normally I would just hand draw this, but this was something I happened to have, and because this is just a blog where I'm trying to teach something, I grabbed it here, and then I'm going to type out my word using the typeface Hello Hannah. So I'm going to grab my type tool. I'm just going to click once. So in Illustrator, there's 2 ways to create type. You can draw a box, and if you type, it will just continue to type past the box. In order to find it, you just got to open the box up. Or you can use your type tool and you can just click once, and then no matter what you type, it'll just get bigger and bigger. And for this, that's what I actually want to do because I'm not creating like a paragraph of text, I'm just creating one word. So I'm going to type in my sister's name. Yes, it's the Hispanic spelling, I'm not missing an H. And I'm going to grab that, select my type character panel, and I'm going to look for Hello Hannah, and I'm going to grab it. But you'll notice I am missing my fancy squigglies on the end. Now, I probably, with this design, could get away without the squigglies and just kind of connect them somewhere like that, but I actually do want the little squiggles because I think when the leaves touch over this, you sort of lose your legibility. So to find those, I'm just going to open my glyphs panel, and if you don't see your glyphs panel, Window, Type, and Glyphs. And then I'm going to find the letter forms I need. So I need the C with the squiggly on the front, and it's really a flourish. I just think squiggly is an easy way to describe it. And I'm going to hit that. I'm going to highlight my A. And just as a note, if you don't highlight it and you just click next to it and then find your A and double click it, it's just going to add it and you'll have to delete the letter. So that's the reason I'm highlighting it. So there we go. We have our squigglies. We're good to go. I'm going to move my glyphs panel off to the side. It once again is being obstinate and will not connect, so I'm just going to exit it. And then I'm going to scale this down to fit. And this is another reason why when you create your type, you might want to just click and type. Because if I click and type, it allows me just to scale. And please don't stretch and squash your type. That's so ugly. Hold shift, please. It'll allow me to scale it. If I draw a box and I scale the box, it's just going to open or close the box. It doesn't scale the type. So that's a little extra thing you might want to know. So that's called point type, and that's called area type in Illustrator. Side note, not super important. So we can see here, I'm just going to get this adjusted so that the overlap looks like it goes in the design in a way that makes sense. I might probably scoot just a little bit more. I want this to kind of like fit the design. So I think that looks okay. I don't like when things are just barely touching. It doesn't look purposeful. So I'm going to probably scale this up just a teeny bit. And I think that'll work. Perfect. So we're not quite touching. Ideally, I probably should make them touch just so that there's more structural strength in the design, but whatever, I'm going to leave it for now. So you might think you're done. You're not, because we have these little eye dots that are going to fall through into our crumb tray, and we're going to lose them forever. So what I'm going to do is take this first name, go to type, and create outlines. I'm going to weld it together, or unite it as you would say in Illustrator. Boop. And that's in our Pathfinder panel. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these little dots and I'm going to move them into a place that makes sense. So right now it's all grouped as one group. I can ungroup it by right mouse clicking and hitting ungroup, or I can just double click, and you can see what that does is it takes me into something called isolation mode, and it will just take me into this group. I can no longer select anything outside of the group, and that can be really helpful so you don't accidentally move other items around. And I'm just going to scoot these down. Like, that's not perfect. It's nice to have the gap, but I would rather keep the dot than delete the dot. I really just don't like the missing dot personally. I don't think it looks as nice. So I'm just going to scoot them down until they look right. And then in this case, that is a very annoying looking tangent. So I'm going to take my white arrow tool. You can see I double clicked again and it took me into this shape. I'm going to highlight the end of it, and I'm just going to use my arrow key, and it's going to pull that part of the character. I think having that connect all the way looks better, or having it not connect at all. So you need to either give it space or connect it. So I'll leave it spaced out this time. And then to get out of isolation mode, you can either click back here or just double click on a blank area and it will take you out of it. Now just so you know, I'm going to need to reunite this because we can see we have overlapping shapes. So I will reunite it, and there we go. We have our free floating letter form here, or letter forms here. I'm going to grab that and the background and unite that as well. And now it's one nice shape, and I can cut that out for my place setting. Now the final design is to do an offset. So let's say you have a typeface that doesn't connect or is really weird, but you gotta use it. It's like someone is insisting you need to do a place mat, and it's gotta be this weird typeface or something. So we'll type the name out. Looks like we have some very, very odd kerning here. Let's bring that in. And I'm going to pick an even more difficult typeface, so let's pick something else. Something that definitely stands apart and is not going to work for the purposes of creating something connected. I'm being picky here. All right, we'll grab that. Just for an example, it all works the same. So now our kerning looks weird because it was probably spaced better in this particular typeface. And I'm just adjusting this value here by hitting Option and using my arrow keys. So there we go, we have this typeface. The person is insisting that it must be this particular one, and we can't cut this out as one piece because it's not connected. So it's really easy, we're just going to create a quick offset. So I'm going to take my word, type and create outlines, and now I'm going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path. And you can see I already have a value dropped in here, but you can adjust this. So if you wanted it to be 1/4 of an inch offset, you can go to 0.25 and just click into another value, and then you'll see what you've got there. So in this case, I'm going to do a 0.5 because these are really skinny letters. And let's say, ooh, maybe I don't like that. Let's do 4 or 5. Let's go to 4. So you can just sort of play around with it. I'm just clicking out to get it to look right. Maybe I don't like that. Let's do 3 or 5. All right, cool. So once I'm happy with that, I can click OK. But I want to show you really quick, there's one other little value here. There's miter and there's round. So you're not going to see much of a difference here, but miter is going to give you like cut off sharp edges. So if we get, let's go back down to like 0.1. Let's zoom in here. Oh, it's not going to let me zoom in. If I go back to miter, this is a rounded typeface. It's not really showing you a difference. I'll see if I can find one that shows a little bit better, but it's going to change the way the corners meet. So let's go to 0.35, and then I just hit enter to click OK. We're now going to have these giant blob here, but it's really easy. While it's still selected, we're just going to unite it with the Pathfinder, and I'm going to swap that fill to an outline by clicking this arrow. And now you can see I have an offset, so I could engrave the inner part and then cut this outer part. We can see that's a very ugly example. So let's just repeat that very quickly with this slightly more elegant example, and we'll see how that's different. So I'm going to click once, type a name, and I'm going to select Samantha. So we're going to go to Samantha. I'm going to do italic bold. I think that looks nice. And I want to have a flourish here. So let's change this by opening our glyphs panel, which I exited, so I need to go find it again. Window, type glyphs, and then I want to go find myself a fancy E. So let's see what kind of fancy E's we got here. So we got that one, which is ugly, so we're not going to use that. Well, it's not ugly, it's just ugly in the context of this word. Let's see, I see some with like kind of a curvy end. Maybe I like that. And then let's look at our D's. What are our D options here? So there's a ton of different ones. Basically, I can just play with one until I find one that I think stylistically goes with the design. So let's pick something excessive. Perfect. So this is a good example because it'll show us how the offset looks. Minimize my glyphs panel. Come back to our letters. Go to Type, Create Outlines. We're going to unite them with our Pathfinder. And then we're going to go to Object, Path, Offset Path again. Now this one, I'm going to keep it a little tighter to the vest. We're going to hit 0.1, and we're going to see how that looks. And I actually think that looks nice. I like this sort of open space here. I think that's kind of pretty. Let's go to 0.09 or 0.08. And the reason I'm doing that is I'd like there to be a little open space here too. I think that looks really nice, but it's going to hold all together really well. That's perfect. Now I'm going to go back to round. You can see it doesn't make a difference because these are really, really curvy typefaces. And I'm going to leave the miter limit. Doesn't really matter in this case. I'm going to hit OK. While it's already selected, I'm just going to unite it and swap it. And there we go. So now let's take a little look here. And one thing I want to fix is these little cutouts. I don't think design-wise they're necessary. They don't look particularly good. So I'm going to delete them. I'm going to take my direct selection tool. I'm going to grab this inner shape just by clicking it, and I'm just going to hit delete until it goes away. I'm going to do the same there, and that'll usually fix it. So there we go. So that's much nicer looking. I think that's kind of an elegant cut. It's going to look really pretty, and then we don't even have to worry about our eye dot dropping off. So this allows you to use some typefaces that aren't connected or wouldn't normally work. And now that we have completed all of those, let's get rid of that one. I'm going to cut these on the Glowforge, and if you head to the post, you can see the final results there, and you can take a look at how what we learned in our font sample video was put into action with these different sort of placemat or place setting designs.